Ed, did you see NSM results for long testing?
From today, not since you last sent them to me, no.
Okay, as I can see, NSM is stable for 14 hours. Everything is working.
This is good news. Now we do have, and let's give him a minute to show up. Laszlo actually has one more MTU fix, and I've got some questions about that fix that he probably has the answers to.
I saw this PR. It's looking about refactoring. I did not see any changes for logic or something else.
Let me take a quick look and see. Are you talking about 555?
Yep.
Yeah, so this actually changes the logic
Function name, and that's all, as you can see.
No, so look at line 50. Line 50 is actually the one that matters. He's returning a different value.
Okay, I see that.
Now, what I need to check in with Laszlo about when he gets here, or in the community meeting, is that particular. I'm not sure if the interface cases he cares about if that value is being set or not. So I need to check and see like what he's done in terms of testing with it, because I know that the reason that we can get away with using the L3 MTU stuff in the places that I put the fixes in is because we are absolutely certain that we have set it in those circumstances. I'm not sure it's getting set here. So, but I'll check. He will probably know. And then the question sort of becomes, okay, if in fact that is a workable thing, what would is that something that they want to delay what impact would that have on the release? Because we'd have to go back and restart the long run. And then from there, is that something that is important enough to them to do that? So, and we'll sort of get that input probably in the community call. I've talked with Zhizhang to see about the community call.
Makes sense. Got it.
Cool. Pardon me. Just getting over a cold. So we should probably, so for this call, where would we like to start today? Because I think that basically we're either about to do the release as soon as the long run finishes, or within one patch of doing the release on the 1.3 release. And then I think you mentioned, Denise, that we've got several things that are ready to go. It's just we didn't want to merge them while we're on the critical path to the release.
Yep.
Okay.
Also, I guess we can start with our sprint sheet.
Start with, oh yeah, so let me go grab the link for that. Could you send the link over the chat? Thank you. And I'll go ahead and share that. Okay. Do we want to start with 1.3? Because I think that's very close to where we were last week. But
yes, we can discuss what is going on for 1.3.
Yep.
Currently, alongside testing is running for GK cluster, but as we said, we probably will need to restart it with patch from Laszlo. And
yeah, it seems very likely to me that we will, yes.
And also we found a problem with Calico CI testing. Mostly it's related to effect that they have not images with concrete take. They always update the master branch with new patches, and as we know, they did some regression with stability with latest patches, and it affects our CI testing. And we are thinking about disable Calico results on packet. It will always run for each build, but results will be optional.
So I think until we can resolve the underlying issue with getting some stable point that we can point to, that's probably our best bet. That's probably our best bet until we can get a stable point to point to. Once we can get a stable point to point to, I'd really like to get those turned back on. Because if we have those running, that means that we can move away from depending on the Calico VPP images for things like command forwarder VPP, because we'll have testing that covers the case when we're using Calico. Does that make sense?
Artem, do you have any thoughts about it?
Correct me if I'm wrong. Do we need to disable Calico now?
So is Calico passing on packet in CI?
It is not stable sometimes.
Okay. And correct me if I'm wrong, my understanding is that the instability is actually an instability in Calico itself. It's a regression that was introduced by them on their master branch.
Yes, I think it's correct.
Okay, and you've been very good about keeping in touch. So you probably let them know already that you're seeing this problem. So that's good. All right, so yeah, I think effectively the real question is packet's not going to pass as long as Calico is reporting and Calico is unstable. That my understanding of the situation?
We can leave the Calico on packet, but not take into account its result in the result of the whole packet build. So
that strikes me as being probably a better answer than just flat out disabling it. Does that match what I thought that was what you were describing, Denise? Did I misunderstand you?
Yep, we are thinking about just disable result for each build for now and fix it right after Calico to get something.
Got it. Okay, so that's good. Does that so my understanding is that we would still be running the testing. We just wouldn't be figuring that into whether the packet testing passes or fails in the roll up of the reporting, correct?
Yes, it should be recorded.
But the overall packet won't fail. The overall packet run.
Oh, as I know, it will only related to Calico job. It will only ignore Calico job results, and other testing should be fine and should not be ignored.
Artem, I think that's what you were suggesting that we do. Did I understand all of that correctly?
I'm sorry, could you repeat the question?
So I think what Denise is suggesting that we do, which is to continue to run the Calico testing, and just not have the result of the Calico testing roll up to the overall pass or fail of the packet CI. I think that's what you were suggesting we do. Did I understand that correctly?
Yes, you're correct.
Fantastic. All right then. That sounds like a really good approach to the problem to me. Okay.
We also have moved all in progress stuff into the next list. Currently, as I know, we have one hard commitment item that is related to simple NEC that will work outside of Kubernetes.
Yes.
And also we have a few examples with VL3 that mostly are ready. I mean, V3 and scale from 0 and VL3 and.
So what I think I'm hearing is that I need to go write up more issues for 1.4. Is that part of the point?
So when you plan to get it in?
I'm sorry, what? When do I plan to get new issues in?
I'm a bit lost. Can you please repeat?
Absolutely. So you have a list of the things that you've moved over from 1.3. And then the only new thing you have so far for 1.4 that wasn't moved over from 1.3 is the monolith case, correct?
Yes.
And so my response was, I clearly am behind in writing up some additional things that we should be working on in 1.4, writing up some additional issues for new things. And so I will get on doing that probably this week.
Oh, sure. We know about it and we just move it all our depending remaining work from previous release into soft commitment. So we are waiting for new issues from you, and while you're creating them, we are working with soft commitment stuff.
Okay, cool. And now, and I know that we have folks who are looking at basically application service meshes over VL3, and it seems like we're getting there in terms of the first pass on VL3. Getting floating scale from 0 floating VL3 as an example. I think you mentioned that is coming along pretty quickly. And so I may also write up some suggestions on how to proceed on some of the application service mesh over VL3.
Yep. Currently, as I know, the separate team is working with this case. And I guess we can discuss it offline about how it's going. But as I know, it's in progress.
My understanding was, and Daniil, you can correct me if I'm wrong. My understanding was that the new team that was working on the application service mesh stuff, that they were in the process of wrapping their heads around the how service mesh actually mechanically works. Not as a consumer, but how it works internal to itself. Do I understand that correctly, Daniil?
So actually, external team is working on some kind of multi-service mesh. So it's a little bit in parallel comparing to the main projects. So core team keeps as is, 3 members plus 1 reserve engineer, and extra team working sure together the VF core team, but they doing a little bit on other things. So something like a multi-service mesh.
Yeah, my understanding was they were still in the learning phase. Was sort of my point. They were still learning about the various service meshes. How they work.
So for sure for new developers, that's some kind of challenge to be aware of all stuff used in service mesh, and yeah, the goal is to have some understanding how the solution could be injected and connected together and get something workable as soon as it's possible.
Okay, no, that actually makes a lot of sense to me. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me.
I guess we'll report any progress into Slack channel for this direction.
Cool.
Yeah, it's some at this moment we are in some R&D process, so we are studying and learning the places where what is the best place to integrate.
So it happens to
And
be it happens to be true that the documentation of how all those service meshes work internally is not nearly as good as the documentation of how to use them, right? That's normal.
We also found that sometimes documentation is not good place to get as it working under the hood. We are mostly dipping into the source code implementation and look at service interaction. And
this is also true.
Yep. So
yeah, I believe the same for most of the IT projects. So
yeah, it's always the way. Documentation always gets stale, which is part of why, at least on the user side, I'm super happy that we're building a lot of our testing from our user documentation, because that means we know it works.
yeah.
Otherwise, it just wouldn't.
Source of the code is still the single source of truth. Yeah.
I agree completely. I agree completely. All right. Anything else we need to talk about this call?
Yep, and I got a question related to our interdomain stuff. I think that probably it's a bit over complicated in terms of control plane implementation. So currently our control plane stuff of interdomain use cases are super dependent on the Kubernetes exposing mechanic that assigns external IPs for addresses for Kubernetes services and so on. And at this moment, we have 4 or 5 exposed services that make NSM working over clusters. And I guess we can reduce the count of exposed services. I think we can look into external DNS project direction. It can reduce exposed service count, or probably we can consider about some kind of proxy service. So to get only one exposed service.
Oh, that's an interesting that is an interesting thought. I'm generally speaking very open to ideas about simplification, because simple things work, simple things are secure, simple things scale, and so let's definitely chat. We can take offline over IM talking through your ideas about simplifying the interdomain stuff. I'm very open to figuring out how we might simplify interdomain.
Yep. So okay, I'll ping you in Slack with some possible solution, and probably we can consider it for next releases.
Excellent. Cool. Anything else for this call? Okay, then I'm inclined to close out this call, and I'll see you all in a little less than 10 minutes on the community call. Talk to
Okay,
you
see
back.
you.
Okay, so